Have you ever found yourself continuously giving to people who only seem to drain you? Have you ever helped someone repeatedly, only to realize they were never truly changing? The truth is, not everyone is meant to be helped. The Bible provides clear warnings about certain types of people we should avoid aiding, not out of a lack of love, but out of wisdom and obedience to God. There is a fine line between being a blessing and being an enabler. If we are not careful, we can find ourselves being manipulated, used, and exhausted by people who have no genuine desire to change. Proverbs 4:7 states, "Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting get understanding." This means that our help must be guided by godly wisdom, not just by emotion. Many Christians struggle with guilt when it comes to saying no to others. We've been taught that helping people is always a noble thing. However, what if I told you that helping the wrong people could actually go against God's will? Some individuals are not seeking help. They are looking for someone to carry their burdens while they continue in their own ways. They want your effort, not your wisdom. Even Jesus set boundaries. He walked away from certain people, John 2 verse 24. Warned against casting pearls before swine, Matthew 7 verse 6, and did not allow himself to be manipulated by those who had no desire to change. If Jesus set boundaries, why do we struggle to do the same? So let's explore the 7 types of people the Bible warns us never to help. 1. The lazy and idle. Beloved, listen carefully. There is a difference between helping those who are struggling and enabling those who refuse to move. The Bible is clear. Laziness is not a weakness. It is a choice, a habit, and ultimately a form of self-sabotage. Proverbs 10:04 declares, "Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth." The Apostle Paul addressed this issue strongly in 2 Thessalonians 3:10. "If anyone is not willing to work, let him not eat." This was not cruelty, it was a principle of divine accountability. God designed life so that we reap what we sow. If a person sows nothing, he should expect to reap nothing. When we continually rescue the lazy, we interfere with God's system of correction. Helping a lazy person financially is not a blessing, it is a hindrance. Covering for them, making excuses, and bailing them out robs them of the lessons that could provoke real change. In Matthew 25:24, 34:30, Jesus tells the parable of a servant who was given a talent, but chose to bury it instead of investing it. The master did not reward his fear or excuses. He called him wicked and lazy and took away even what he had. There is a difference between those who cannot work and those who will not work. Proverbs 6:9-11 warns, "How long will you lie there, you sluggard? When will you get up from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come on you like a thief, and scarcity like an armed man." Some of you are drained because you keep trying to help people who refuse to help themselves. You pour out your resources, your time, your energy, but the more you give, the less they do. That is not a godly burden. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back and allow them to face the consequences of their own choices. 2. The ungrateful. There is a type of person who will receive your sacrifice, your love, your effort, and your time, yet act as if it was owed to them. Ungratefulness is not just a bad habit, it is a sign of a corrupted heart, and the Bible warns us against it. In Luke 17:17-18, Jesus heals 10 lepers, but only one returns to give thanks. Jesus doesn't let this go unnoticed. He asks, "Were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? This is a question we must ask ourselves. Where are the people who received but never returned? Where are the ones who were lifted but never acknowledged the hand that lifted them? Gratitude is the mark of a humble and godly heart, while ungratefulness is the mark of entitlement and selfishness. In 2 Timothy 3:02, Paul warns that in the last days, people will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy. Helping an ungrateful person is like pouring water into a bottomless pit. No matter how much you give, it will never be enough. The more you help, the less they appreciate it. The Bible warns in Proverbs 17:13, "Evil will never leave the house of one who repays good with evil." Some people don't just fail to say thank you, they turn around and mistreat the very person who helped them. Some of you are emotionally drained because you are constantly trying to please ungrateful people. But hear me, God did not call you to be anyone's doormat. He did not call you to keep pouring into people who refuse to appreciate the gift. Stop giving your best to people who don't value it. Stop sacrificing for those who take it for granted. Stop letting people drain you dry without even a word of thanks. Did you know that gratitude is a key to increase? When Jesus multiplied the fish and the loaves in John 6:11, he gave thanks before distributing them. In Thessalonians 5:18, we are commanded to give thanks in all circumstances because gratitude attracts more blessings. When you thank God, He releases more. When you are grateful for what you have, He increases it. But when you are ungrateful, you block your own breakthrough. These are just the first two types of people you should never help according to the Bible. The remaining 5 are just as crucial, each with biblical principles that reveal why helping the wrong people can actually go against God's will. If you are tired, drained, and feeling unappreciated in your giving, it may be time to reevaluate who you are pouring into. Beloved, wisdom is key. God calls us to help others, but not at the cost of enabling sin, laziness, or ungratefulness. As you navigate your relationships, seek His guidance and discernment. Remember, even Jesus set boundaries, so you must learn to do the same. Choose wisely whom you invest in, and let your help be directed by godly wisdom, not just emotion. Doors of opportunity often remain closed, not because of external forces, but because of ingratitude. Some people are not stuck due to the schemes of the enemy. They are stuck because they fail to recognize and appreciate the blessings they have already received. When we neglect to acknowledge God's goodness, we hinder our own progress. If you desire to walk in divine favor, cultivate a heart of gratitude, and if you seek to live wisely, be discerning about whom you invest your time and energy in. Helping the ungrateful is often futile. Until they learn to appreciate what they have, they will continue to lose it. The peril of pride and arrogance. The Bible does not merely caution against pride. It outright condemns it as dangerous, destructive, and deceptive. Proverbs 16:18 states unequivocally, "Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall." A prideful person leaves no space for God because they are consumed by their own wisdom, achievements, and self-reliance. The inevitable result? They fall. Every single time. James 4:6 warns us that God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. Think about that. When you walk in arrogance, you are not merely contending with people or circumstances, you are actively opposing God Himself, and that is a battle no one can win. Now some may argue, but aren't we supposed to help others? Yes, we are called to uplift the broken, to strengthen the weak, and to support the struggling. But we are not called to waste our efforts on those who refuse to be helped. Pride is a closed door. When you attempt to correct a proud person, they reject your wisdom. When you offer guidance, they dismiss it. When you warn them, they ignore you. Proverbs 26:12 makes this sobering observation. Do you see a person wise in their own eyes? There is more hope for a fool than for them. Many people suffer not because of demonic attacks or external hardships, but because they stubbornly refuse to listen, to humble themselves, or to accept correction. If you continue trying to help a proud person, you will only drain yourself emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. You cannot rescue someone who refuses to acknowledge their need for salvation. The difference between confidence and arrogance. It is important to distinguish confidence from arrogance. Confidence stems from faith in God. Arrogance arises from reliance on self. Confidence acknowledges that God is the source of success. Arrogance claims personal credit for all achievements. The confident believer declares, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." Philippians 4:13. The arrogant individual says, "I did this, I built this, I accomplished this." And when you start taking credit for what rightfully belongs to God, you set yourself up for failure. A striking example of this is King Nebuchadnezzar in Daniel 4:8. He was powerful, wealthy, and influential until he made one fatal mistake. He took credit for what God had done. As he surveyed his kingdom, he boasted, "Is not this the great Babylon I have built as the royal residence by my mighty power and for the glory of my majesty?" The moment those words left his lips, judgment fell upon him. God stripped him of his power, expelled him from his palace, and reduced him to living like a wild animal for 7 years. Only when he humbled himself did God restore him. Similarly, Pharaoh in Exodus was warned repeatedly to humble himself and release the Israelites, but he hardened his heart. His refusal to listen led to devastating plagues, the destruction of his army, and ultimately his own downfall. Pride blinds people to truth, making them deaf to warnings and resistant to wisdom. If you find yourself frustrated from constantly trying to help people who refuse correction, step back and let God deal with them. Jesus himself advised in Matthew 7:6, "Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces." Some people are so entrenched in arrogance that they will mock and reject the wisdom you offer. Forcing wisdom upon a fool is a waste of time, energy, and peace of mind. The wicked and the sinful. We live in a world where people say God loves everyone. While this is true, do not mistake God's love for his approval. God does not bless wickedness, endorse sin, or reward rebellion. As believers, we are called to walk in wisdom. Psalm 101 makes it clear, "Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked." If you desire God's blessing, you must separate yourself from those who persist in evil. We all sin and fall short of God's glory, but there is a crucial difference between a sinner who repents and a wicked person who refuses to change. There is a vast gulf between someone who struggles with sin and seeks God's grace, and someone who embraces sin, defends it, and leads others astray. Proverbs 6:16-19 lists 7 things that are detestable to God, including a lying tongue, hands that devises wicked schemes. Some people do not just live in darkness, they actively draw others into it. Romans 1:32 warns that not only do such individuals engage in sin, but they also approve of those who practice them. When you enable or support the wicked, you become complicit in their rebellion. Jezebel, Cain, and Judas are stark biblical examples of people who were warned but refused to repent. Their stories ended in tragedy not because God was unwilling to forgive, but because they hardened their hearts. How to handle the wicked in your life. Many believers struggle with how to interact with wicked individuals, especially when they are family members, co-workers, or close friends. The answer is clear. Set boundaries, love them, but do not enable them. Speak the truth. Never compromise on righteousness. Do not endorse their sin, pray for them, but do not participate in their rebellion. You are not God. It is not your job to save them. It is your job to stand for righteousness. Some people will only change when they face the full consequences of their actions. The foolish. Lastly, we must address the foolish. The Bible repeatedly warns against the dangers of foolishness. Proverbs 13:20 states, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm." There are people who refuse wisdom, ignore instruction, and despise correction. Trying to help them is an exercise in futility. To walk in God's wisdom, you must discern whom to invest in. Pour into those who are open to learning, growing, and changing. Leave the proud, the wicked, and the foolish in God's hands. Some lessons can only be learned through hardship, and sometimes the best way to help someone is to let them experience the consequences of their own choices. Wisdom and discernment, knowing when to step back. In today's world, foolishness is not a lack of intelligence, it is the willful rejection of wisdom. There are people who do not struggle due to a lack of opportunity, nor do they suffer because no one has extended a helping hand. Instead, their difficulties stem from an outright refusal to listen and learn. The Bible repeatedly warns us about the consequences of associating with fools. Proverbs 13:20 cautions, "Walk with the wise and become wise. For a companion of fools suffers harm." This means that even if you are wise, surrounding yourself with foolish people can still lead to harm. Not because you are foolish yourself, but because your proximity to them entangles you in their consequences. Many people spend their time trying to help those whom God has already warned them about. But what exactly is a fool? A fool is not merely someone who lacks knowledge. Rather, they are someone who rejects wisdom. Proverbs 26:11 offers a vivid depiction. As a dog returns to its vomit, so fools repeat their folly. This imagery is striking. A dog consumes something harmful, vomits it out, and then returns to eat it again. Likewise, fools continuously break free from their bad decisions, only to return to them. They escape toxic situations, but they willingly go back. They receive wisdom, but refuse to apply it. Let me tell you something, you cannot save a fool. Some of you are exhausted because you keep pouring your wisdom, love, resources, and time into people who are not ready to change. No matter how much you counsel, correct, or warn them, they persist in making the same poor choices. A fool will drain you, a fool will exhaust you, and a fool will pull you into their dysfunction. Even worse, a fool will make you look like the crazy one, because while you are chasing after them, trying to help, they are rejecting you at every turn. Proverbs 23:9 warns us, "Do not speak to fools, for they will scorn your prudent words." Trying to reason with a fool is like arguing with a brick wall. A fool does not lack knowledge, a fool lacks humility. It is not that they do not know what is right, it is that they refuse to accept correction. Here's a hard truth. When you continue to rescue a fool, you become part of the cycle. You become their safety net, their emergency exit. But they will never truly change. Fools are not teachable. They crave help but reject correction. They desire relief but refuse transformation. And if you keep trying to save them, they will drain your energy, squander your resources, and then blame you when things go wrong. That is why the Bible says in Proverbs 14:7, "Stay away from a fool, for you will not find knowledge on their lips." Some of you need to take a step back and allow life to teach them what they refuse to learn from you. You cannot save a fool. Only God can humble them. The dishonest and manipulative. There are some people you should never help, not because they lack need, but because their intentions are not pure. These individuals do not come to you seeking genuine help. They come because they see you as an opportunity. They recognize your soft heart and your willingness to give without question. However, the Bible is very clear about dishonest and manipulative people. Proverbs 12:22 states, "The Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in people who are trustworthy." Deception is not merely dishonesty, it is a tool of the enemy. 2 Corinthians 11:14 warns that Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. This means deception is not always obvious. The most dangerous liars are the ones who know how to sound sincere. The most dangerous manipulators are those who skillfully present themselves as victims. A manipulative person will exploit your emotions to get what they want. They will make you feel guilty, twist your kindness, use flattery, and pretend to be something they are not. Do not be deceived. Proverbs 26:24-26 warns, "Enemies disguise themselves with their lips, but in their hearts they harbor deceit. Though their speech is charming, do not believe them." Some people will say exactly what you want to hear just to get what they want. If someone has manipulated you to gain your help, they do not deserve it. If they have twisted the truth, guilt-tripped you, or pressured you into giving, you need to step back and let them go. Let me be clear, we are called to help those in need, but we are also called to use discernment. There is a significant difference between someone who is genuinely struggling and someone who is playing a game. Here are signs that someone is dishonest or manipulative. Their stories frequently change, and details never align. They only reach out when they need something. They guilt-trip you when you hesitate to help. They have a pattern of using people. They make promises they never keep. They never take responsibility for their actions. God did not call you to be deceived. He called you to walk in wisdom. The unrepentant. There is a difference between someone who struggles with sin and someone who is unrepentant. There is a difference between someone who stumbles and gets back up and someone who knowingly lays in sin and refuses to move. Hebrews 10:26 declares, "If we deliberately keep on sinning after we have received the knowledge of the truth, no sacrifice for sins is left." Unrepentance is rebellion. It is a heart posture that says, "I know what God says, but I don't care." And let me tell you something, when you attempt to help someone who is unrepentant, you are not assisting them, you are only enabling their rebellion. Some of you have been carrying people that God has been trying to break. You have been rescuing individuals that God has been trying to correct, but if you continue interfering with God's process, you will end up fighting against Him. If a person refuses to change, they will continue to misuse your help. You can pray for them, counsel them, pour out your wisdom and resources, but if they are not ready to turn away from sin, your efforts will be wasted. Some people do not want deliverance. They want comfort in their sin. They do not want correction, they want affirmation. They do not want transformation, they want sympathy. But hear me, you cannot free someone who loves their chains. Proverbs 29 verse 0 warns, "Whoever remains stiff-necked after many rebukes will suddenly be destroyed without remedy." There comes a point when correction no longer works. Some people are not suffering because of the devil. They are suffering because of their own hard hearts. Luke 15:11 through 32, the parable of the prodigal son, teaches us an important lesson. The father did not chase after his son when he left. He did not rescue him when he squandered his inheritance. He let him go. And only when the son hit rock bottom did he come to his senses. A call to discernment. God calls us to be generous, but He also calls us to be wise. If you have been pouring into the lazy, the proud, the ungrateful, the wicked, the foolish, the dishonest, and the unrepentant, it is time to rethink where you are investing your energy. There are people out there who need your help, people who will appreciate your kindness, people who will listen, learn, and grow. But if you keep giving everything to those who refuse to change, you will have nothing left for those who truly need it. Ask God for discernment. Pray, "Lord, am I helping the right people?" Because when you sow into the right people, you will see growth. When you invest in those truly ready to change, you will see transformation. Be wise, be discerning, and trust God to handle those who refuse to listen.